the arrested development of the American people, and perhaps many more people around the world, especially in the Western world, actually aspects of Asia as well, certain areas. We're seeing a real-time effect of the dumbing down of our society and the gender warfare epidemic that's now showing signs of people showing signs of clear mental illness. They're snapping. Not everybody that snaps in a violent way. Some people snap in other ways, and they start becoming different people, colder people. I think there's an awakening taking place that aspects of MGTOW and feminism are two sides of the same coin. There's a comment that was made in my forum over at outsidethebox.vhx.tv, and I thought that was interesting to see that comment on a video where I'm talking about going beyond MGTOW and how a lot of people are in a limited understanding, a lot of men. See, there's differences between us. There's complications. It's because of social engineering, and it's happening to both of us. Why is there denial from both men and women that there's this social engineering? Some prefer, like racists, to maintain their sexist outlook, to judge. Well, if you're going to judge an entire sex, that's more than a race. That's half the population. So, I'm seeing scary things on the horizon. I want to say that there is an issue, however, with these men. Arrested development of men. We have this technology, right? What do people do with it? Are they trying to wake people up? Or are they trying to troll people? Are they trying to play video games? Are they trying to, and of course there are these TV shows that people watch. Nothing wrong with watching a few shows or going on a watching binge. That's not what life is about. This thing here, people talk about the enslavement to the digital devices. Social media has rewired human brains. It's replaced human relationships. That's been the core of my dialogue for what now, 5-6 years now. And it's scientifically proven. Facebook, other social media addictions, I would say YouTube, the comment section. We're not just talking about content consumers. I myself as a content creator, I'm right in the middle of it. And see, I want to focus on my own content, but I've also, to bring a few dollars in, have been running someone else's website, which means I got to run the social media pages. And as a sensitive, oh man, pick up on all that energy, all those unconscious comments. It's rough. It's hard to see humanity at a low level of consciousness. Okay. I see how people come together, look at some of these protests, at what they hate, and their lack of ability to come together with what they do want and those they do support. I also think back to Bernie Sanders supporters. A lot of them, they'll get behind a guy that put his support behind Hillary and got in line for the DNC. What about supporting good men in your community? The imbalance taking place is a fraction of consciousness. We are separated from nature as a result, and then we put in these unnatural worlds and realities and behaviors, modern day supposed normal behavior. And as a result, the divide between the men and the women. And perhaps even because we have masculine, feminine energies inside, whatever your sex, even if you're heterosexual, we have these balances. There's duality within us. There is a yin-yang or yin-yang within us. Whatever's happening is affecting people on a deep, profound level. And I know there's women and men out there just like myself that are seeing this, that have been through this pain for years. Maybe they've been angry for years, but they know the agenda is to divide us, to conquer us. We are the minority, but we are rising, and we must become louder. We must seek to help others. Instead of act like prisoners, I see people act like prisoners. They'll sit there and act like you're your friend one day, stab you in the back the next. We see certain psychological disorders from an adult population. Despite the fact there's a lot of information on this, people haven't used this technology, which is powerful, for the highest good. It's not something that's meant to be used to pass the time. This ability that we have, right, to communicate, leave a text message, leave a comment, that's some pretty powerful stuff. I mean, that, oh man, that is some powerful stuff. I mean, think about it. Now tell me what we've accomplished. Got some guy in one part of the world, he's talking to his buddy. Little headset. Oh, I see you. You're over there in the stank. You're over there in the tank. Well, I'm up here in the helicopter. Turn around. Turn around. Da-da-da-da-da. You know, and someone's playing World of Tanks. Meanwhile, somewhere else in an army base, somebody's taking out an Afghani. And he don't even have to be there to fight the Afghani to look him in the eye. Like a real man. No. He kills him. Or her, or them. The entire family. Enjoying a wedding. There was the military advancement technology, and then space. I'll be returning to the Elon Musk potential alien agenda topic very soon. But it's like all this stuff is tying together. What is happening to these men? Do you really see men working together in the research community? Or do you see trolls, stalkers, sociopaths? The epidemic of men that become obsessed with other men, I see it on YouTube. It's all over. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's one thing if you're criticizing people that are trying to do wrong, but just for fun, because you're bored. I mean, we talk about politicians. We talk about, like, mafia-style level kingpin, where it's like almost risking putting your name on the line. I've been doing this 12 years. Some of you stirred up channels in the last few years. This isn't a pissing contest. I've been doing this 12 years. You realize the risk involved? I don't want to be worshipped. I want basic respect. It's a different world now than it was 5 years ago. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. Where's the respect? Where is it? Where is the brotherly love? See, I see trolls. I see people making YouTube videos about other people all the time. As their way of life. I see others making videos of themselves playing video games. It's like filming someone watching TV. And of course we have versions of that as well, but it's like, I was like, whoa. You mean to say there are viral channels, like viral, where people watch others play games? You know, there's a number of things, you know, especially when I was younger, that I didn't like about the way my mother raised me. and we will agree to disagree on certain things. One thing that she didn't let me have as a young kid, but of course I played at the arcades, video games, or when I was, we were house sitting. In the family that lived there, they had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I think I played it for days and days. It's like getting to the last level. The handheld game and the Nintendo. But it was forbidden for me to be like the other kids and have certain things that I wanted. But those weren't my needs. My needs were met. My wants were something else. You know, and in other ways, you can say that I wasn't spoiled. I had a sheltered childhood growing up, in some respects. But, you know, thinking about all these different things. Through the hardship that I experienced very early on, I had to pull up my bootstraps, so to speak. I made some mistakes, which I've mentioned in my YouTube channel when I was 19, and I didn't have any family, and I'm in a self-destructive mode. And for some reason, it's like I put myself through some sort of walking over the coals ritual or ceremony, and I played it out. And I had to go through some things without a mother and a father around. And I started my show at the age of 25 in the year 2005 without any support whatsoever. And I walked through the coals some more. Walked through the fear, being put on a terror list with a Middle Eastern last name. To go through that type of judgment during the Barack Obama period. To feel that sense of heartbreak with my fellow Portlanders because I'm seen as some right-winger just because I'm not drinking the Obama Kool-Aid. That hurt. But I recovered, and I overcame. And I still care about people, whether they be left or right, as long as they're not promoting some racist agenda. I mean, there's worse things also one can do. And then there's things that don't even come close to pushing racism. That people, for whatever reason, act like, oh man, that is the worst thing you can do. For example, some white men and humans, white women, and again, these labels are arbitrary, but people do identify with it. So some, not all, will accuse someone of racism when they call out the racism they're seeing from some white people or some human beings, and act like they're in some sort of a groupthink. So they've created these artificial racial tensions. And despite the fact that we have this information and knowledge, you would think the men of the world would be real men and put together a think tank to outthink the New World Order, right? Aren't we all about doing the pyramid upside down? And instead I see people competing. And even on a primitive level, it's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. It's like they're competing for the woman. Like, ooh, 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 look at me, ooh. You know, likes and all that. I mean, with all that just spread. And then you still see, it's like I'm starting to notice some of the primitive aspects of humanity that isn't always obvious, with just simple behaviors that people think is really sophisticated because people are wearing makeup and, you know, they're performing in front of a television audience and they have all this technology. And yet you have the crowd hooping and hollering like animals, which they are, but they're not conscious animals. They're animals that have had their development arrested. And what a world in which Arrested Development would be the name of a TV show. And people with Arrested Development would be watching Arrested Development. So just back to the guy filming himself watching the TV. Oh, I'm going to go back to filming video games. What would it take for men to be men? Would they do it on their own? Or are they just going to choose to do it next year? Next year we'll do it. When we're deeper into the social media. Yeah. Maybe then the YouTubers will get together. Side topic. So you have the YouTube AdSense evaporating unless you're the mainstream media, even if you're left or right and non-political, non-controversial. Doesn't matter. Have we seen the big YouTubers with like a large reach try to call a meeting? Or, it's like there are advertisers that will put their ads on videos. All it really takes is some focus and drive and ingenuity, and you can have the content creators, some significantly large ones, and some advertisers. I mean, call me an idealist. But I mean, you have people that are like generating like 3 million views. 4 million views on a video where they're, talking about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or something to that effect. And I'm not saying that's not relevant. I'm talking about national issues too. When do you see these people that are like the biggest voices in the media, whether you like them or not, mainstream or alternative media, are they making any attempt whatsoever? As far as I'm concerned, people have just given up. And to be honest with you, and I have been honest with you, because of the, I'm scared straight. Some of the people that I've met along the road, I'm scared straight. I've seen some really bizarre human behavior. I've seen some frightening behavior. Some things I'm not going to say. Some things I'm not going to air. It's a different world for me as a public figure than it was for me as a public figure 1 year ago, 2 years ago. So then I try to keep my worries about the future at bay and hope this is just a phase. Hope this is just a phase. At some point, I'll see people active again and acting normal and polite again. I want to see a brighter future. Maybe one day have a month enough to hire someone or take a trip or to upgrade my equipment. Maybe later in life to provide for someone or to help others. May I be in a situation where I can provide and help others if that's what's meant for me down the line. I'm 37 years young. I have some decent mileage. I've lived many lives within this life. That's going to be one of the subjects of my book. That at some point I'll write the many lives within this life. Being involved in this 12 years, I remember what it was like to try to interact with other content creators then. And the audience then, a raw audience. And I remember the questions they would ask me. They were so baffled. How did you learn all this? Did you go to school to learn this? You're going to be on CNN, or you're going to be on in a positive way, although they just didn't understand that really controversial stuff isn't really allowed on those networks. But they were trying to be complimentary. Don't you forget us when you're famous. Others, a lot of prying. How much money do you make doing that show? Wow, you're really good. You make money at that, right? And then other questions. How do you do it? How do you put on a show like that? How do you do it? And then time passages. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. It's like some time passes, and what was warm became ice cold. The kind of cold that a guy could freeze to death in. We talk about a cold in a literal and a metaphoric way. How the world can turn cold to those individuals that are on a certain path. Because they don't go back to a sense of sleep with the rest of the herd. There are these cycles of awakening and going to sleep that we notice within society. And awakening and going to sleep. And then some of us aren't trying to go to sleep. we're affected by the cycles, but we're on this path no matter what. We're not, oh, now we're unhappy with the presidency. Oh, now we're happy. Oh, now we're unhappy with the presidency. Oh, now we're happy. It's like, why allow yourself to have an unnecessary bipolar disorder that occurs every 4 to 8 years? It's unfortunate. Am I seeing people with this cognitive dissonance and this bipolar tendency? Controlled schizophrenia. They act like they're into liberty, right, during the 2000s. And then when it's Donald Trump, all of a sudden everything changes because they believe the terror threat was real. And that those refugees really did pledge allegiance to ISIS. We are divided upon racial lines as men and women in ways that we were not 3-4 years ago. Obviously, it takes someone half of Middle Eastern descent and Anglo that could be labeled white genocide to explain this to you. But I've seen people act in ways in the last few years and others in denial. And then so you have a lot of people in pain now because you have this fight, because we're in this prison reality and people have been socially engineered to not trust each other. Selfishness, self-centeredness, some say is the root of our problems. And it is how they, that's right, they, control us. Divide the men and women. Divide the men. Divide the women. Divide the perception of races. Mind screw people so hard they'll think of themselves as mixed race for most of their lifetime without even knowing who they are and being in their full power. Because their light that shines so bright is disgusting to the spiritual parasites of this world. Over half the period that I was involved in being an activist and living in Portland, there would be people that would say that the new age of enlightenment was upon us. And this meme was so dominant. And that the things that I was saying, oh no, Alex, you're trying to make it happen. Is this what you call a collective shift in consciousness? That woman in Portland that's ranting on Facebook that I made a video about that's talking about, well, I hate all men. F all men. F all men. And then her friends come in, they're like, yeah, F all men. What is this, a protest? F all men. 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 And we don't mean the sexual kind of way. F all men. Yeah. I'm like, whoa. Holy crap. Did you see that? And then you look over here and it's like, I've seen the way some men have talked about women. It's completely degrading. Online. And how people have talked about different people of different races and backgrounds. And also seen some people call for the death of white people. And seeing things that I've never seen before. Then I had a video about Alex Jones, seeing behavior from Alex Jones that I've never seen before. And I believe he's infected. My friends, those that are watching this video, excuse the coughing, there's a reason why it was my goal to get away from mainstream society and just be alone. And try to figure out my thoughts and become a better writer, become a better communicator. I don't want to be wrapped up with my issues with men and women. I had some traumatic things, I think, early on with my mother and my father. But I also realized that I'm a different kind of a thinker and philosopher. And so, in the end, because I guess you could say my alienation from society and some of my experiences and also being controversial, I've alienated myself from lots of different groups and people. And by being a non-Muslim, I've alienated myself from my father's family because I'm an American-born non-Muslim who's more of a Gnostic. Some people call me a New Ager. I don't think that's very fair, being that I speak out against some New Age deceptions. But I'm an independent, genuine thinker that is outside of all these tribes. I'm a one-man gang. I'm a one-man nation. I'm a standalone entity. I literally work for myself. I live off the grid. I'm creating now and moving forward media because I believe that I can reach you. I believe that I can reach others. I believe that I will be able to survive and sustain and keep going and keep growing. And I don't believe World War III is happening tomorrow. I believe what's happening in a few years is going to be devastating. But it isn't a real war. They're staging an unfortunate situation, and they will use high-tech weapons to send men and women against men and women. This is what I talk about. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. I believe in warning people. I believe in speaking to men and speaking inside their consciousness, to cheer them on in their own evolution as a man. And especially those with wives and girlfriends and children, to reach those in certain areas. If anything that I say is correct, to give them information, to steer them in the right direction. I think about women that could be targeted, or women that might need to hear some of the spiritual commentary about being a good person to protect yourself in uncertain times. There's more than a big lock and a big dude and a big gun that's going to be needed. I don't have a big dude, a big gun, or a big lock. I have my heart and my faith in something higher. At any moment, at any time, I could be taken out of the game, and it's been that way for years. And I've had to live without fear and on the go. And I've had to deal with certain ego blows where I had nothing and no one. Physically alone. I don't come from a strong family structure or unit. And yet I survive certain things. You know, I've talked about some of those things on this channel. And I'm going to write about some of those things. But the man standing before you, sitting before you, as we go from the age of the analog into singularity, we are in between worlds. I deliver this message to you now, and you're hearing it now. We're in between worlds. The world hasn't ended. We're still here, but there's still danger. There are still toxic relationships that we need to heal, and these governments need to heal. We're not on that path. So what do? We don't give up. We don't, for entertainment, go into the Borg and into the machine and into things that are mindless and frivolous. We get serious with ourselves, with others. Think about it. You don't see people in the alternative media getting together and having a barbecue, going on a camping trip. Oh, you could see the people at Narcotics Anonymous do it. Alcoholics Anonymous, they're trying to be on a spiritual path, I guess. Some yoga groups, maybe a martial arts club. Hey, summer camp, basketball. Fill in the blank. Sewing club, badminton, writers club. You take each one of these demographics, you're going to find some sort of a club. Look at colleges. You look at high schools. Now you look at the conspiracy research community. What you've got are a few people that believe the world revolves around them, that put on conferences. Conferences where it's revolving around those organizers and their message. and what they get out of someone coming to speak at their conference. We haven't even evolved with this technology as men and women to where there's some financial support. You think about think about all the money that people waste in Vegas and other places. What if someone was to pick people that they liked in the alternative media? A millionaire or a billionaire. And I'll tell you how I know it's possible. Because I met one once. I went to Dallas, Texas in 2012, ladies and gentlemen. I have a story a few people on YouTube have. The man wanted to compete with Alex Jones. He was a millionaire. Problem was, the man wanted to get rich off multi-level marketing. He didn't like it when I said I want to be the face of it. He wasn't serious about getting another crew, but he wanted me to do the news. Alex Ansary, Underground News Network. At one point, the dude told me to email Chris Green and ask if we could just have alternative media, the name. I never did it. I literally was around a crazy dude. Inward this. As this. Tell you what, there's no one's going to be compassionate or fair to anyone from anyone around the world if they hate Hispanics and blacks. And there's no liberty in that. There's no liberty in that. There's no freedom in that. What was his agenda? What was his motivation? Now I ask you, does it actually take a Rothschild on his deathbed to make this happen? To make this happen. Think about all that empty studio space. We are a planet full of humans that have issues living amongst each other and working together, no matter how serious the threat. So in that regard, and I've had some very unfortunate things happen when I've encountered some people. So I'm looking at others and what others are doing, and if there's any organization and money going to the alternative media at a time where YouTube is pulling the plug. And right now, all I'm seeing for the most part is I'm seeing a crash. And completely separate from the AdSense and the economics, a crash in morality. A crash in empathy. I talk about the lack of concern regarding millions dead. I don't see how some people do it. Oh, that doesn't affect me. I'm this. They're that. I'm here. They're there. That's their karma. I'm enjoying mine. So I'm going to come back. We got to address what's going on. But we have the ability to heal ourselves, to go within, to seek independence from being dependent on anyone, even community. Acceptance, love. We can go our own way and end up using satellite technology to speak to the world from the wilderness, from a box literally at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because I'm feeling the spirit and I'm feeling the focus and I'm doing some uploads. We have an epidemic of arrested development. We can see it in our relationships. We can see it in the trolling behavior. We can see it in so many ways. How divided we are. And how little support the men that are actually telling the truth, that are the underdogs, how little support they have from the world. What I can say is after 12 years, I can tell you, after 12 years and reaching millions of people, it's challenging to only have so many subscribers on my new on-demand channel, despite all the years of activism. And then I see a few people subscribing here and there. And every now and then I may post on Facebook to see if people are engaged intellectually again. It's like there was a day and a time to where I can ask a serious question on social media and get a serious answer. And there's a certain percentage of like the comments and just whatever it is, comments anywhere in social media. It's like at this low level of intellect. And the computers themselves and the time spent on the computers, it's like replaced real life. It's replaced real life. So, as I close here, having said all that, it's the individual that needs to make the right decisions to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit, and emotionally. And to not be dependent on an idea that we should have some large community. And we need to learn how to survive the world as it is. There are ways in which we can work together and probably should. But there are ways in which certain people on this planet, and there are many, that have the means, financially and logistic. People with the big media megaphone. As for people like myself, I can't reach millions in a short period of time. It takes me years to do that. Years to reach millions. There's actually, I guess, there is an uphill trajectory with the views, and that is good, and we are still here, and you are still watching us. And as long as this technology still exists, I'm going to keep using it. But I'm only responsible for my side of the street and my life. I choose to do this as a way of life, though, to go the extra mile and not just be interested in myself and my own life, to work and work and work so I have all this money and have a wife and have these material things that other men choose to have. I'm on a different path. I believe that there is like value in reaching you wherever you live. And sometimes when donations have come in, they've come in from like, okay, so here I'll be here on this part of the planet, and $5 is coming in from Finland. $5 from Norway. And maybe somewhere here in the States. But literally it's like, those of you that are the audience, you're like spread out in a formation. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you're in a country to where YouTube is allowed. What if I could reach the whole world? What if we could reach the whole world? Well, that's what I'm thinking about. As we sit here in between the age of the analog and the age of singularity and the robot takeover, we just get consumed in the machines. We're like in this in-between reality. We're seeing warning signs, but it's not yet YouTube D-Day. There's still information that's being shared. I'm hearing about how access to social media in China is becoming easier for those of us in the West. If that's true, should we not be reaching the people of China? Researchers in China exposing these corrupt leaders in the East and the West, how they conspire for wars upon wars, as they eat caviar and beautiful chocolate cake behind closed doors. Well, they send men and women to kill other men and women with high-tech weapons. So that's all for now. I want to address the arrested development in our society and be the best example that I'm able to be. I can't be perfect, but I can be me without compromising and being someone that I'm not. I'm Alex Ansary, signing off from somewhere out there, April 30th, 2017.